All right. Well, welcome to episode 2 of Breakdowns with Immortal. I'm again here with Dr. Julie.
Hello.
And this is where we break down the complex topics of longevity. So first things first, we have to take care of business. What band shirt are you wearing today?
The Devil Wears Prada, if it wasn't obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And you?
Oh, this is At the Gates, a pretty good Swedish metal band.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so are you going to give us any juicy breakdowns or favorite songs?
Okay, so again, I couldn't narrow it down to one, so I've got 2 songs.
Mm-hmm.
Again, shows the breadth of the band a little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
Taking them back to 2009.
Mm-hmm.
The song Assistant to the
Back
Manager.
to my youth.
Our youth.
Mm-hmm.
Assistant to the Manager, great song. Also, one of my favorites is Escape from the Zombie EP. It's pretty good stuff.
All right,
Go take a listen.
Okay, then let's dive right into it.
Mm-hmm.
Today we are going to discuss Hormesis. Hormesis, which sounds like an STD, but I'm guessing is not.
Mm-mm.
All right, so why don't we get started?
So Hormesis, what is it? Everybody has heard what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And what's funny is there's actually a lot of truth to that. That's kind of the basis of hormesis. And hormesis is this biological process with the idea of when we expose ourselves to low levels of non-dangerous stress, our body then adapts and is better and more resilient to handle stresses in the future. And it accomplishes this by these small levels of stress. They initiate all different biological cascades that turn things on, turn things off, tell your cells to clean up, clean house, and prepare for tough times. So what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Okay. I mean, that all sounds fine and dandy, but I almost feel like we've always been told that stress is bad. You should avoid stress.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me it's good.
I know. Whenever anybody ever talks about stress, I mean, it's never really in a positive light. Everybody's always saying, I'm stressed. That causes me a lot of stress. And that's true. You know, modern day stresses versus kind of like our ancestral stresses are pretty different when we compare them. So today's more modern day stresses, we think of the emotional and mental stresses a little bit more.
Yeah, not so much the physical or the hunting and gathering type.
Exactly. And both are stresses. And then let me actually go back a little bit and we'll define what a stress is. A stressor is basically anything that just adds pressure or tension. And it can be mental, physical, or emotional. So whatever the stressor is, what's really important is kind of the intensity and duration of it.
So like the what doesn't kill you. You shouldn't die.
Exactly, because every stress, you know, at high levels are going to be deleterious. They're going to be dangerous. They're going to cause negative effects. That's going to be your bad stress, right? But if you give a small dose, you know, a very intentional small dose of stress, and it's at a short duration, you're basically exposing your body and your cells to something stressful. You are overcoming it by, you know, initiating biological processes, and therefore you're becoming more adapted and resilient for when you encounter similar stresses in the future, biologically and of course mentally and physically speaking as well. Yeah. So stresses, you know, hormesis is basically administering good positive stress in order to counteract and better be equipped to handle the negative stress.
Okay, so intentional, non-deadly, or low levels amount of stress.
Right.
But what kind of stress are you talking about? I know you're talking about, you know, we have our modern day, you know, the Wi-Fi is out kind of stress. But what do you mean by these intentional stressors?
So there's specific ways that we can trigger hormesis inside of our bodies. And there's specific ways that we can trigger these cascades that help tell our bodies and our cells, hey, we need to become more energy efficient, meaning we need to crank up mitochondria, or we need to ensure proper folding of our proteins, and we need to clean house, and these cells aren't folded correctly, get rid of them.
That's what I want. How do I do that?
So how do we do that? There's easy targets, easy, simple ones that are lifestyle kind of related. So number one, biggest bang for your buck, kind of the recurrent theme of longevity, is exercise. And the biggest bang for your buck with exercise is going to be those really high intensity intermittent bouts of all out energy.
Like kind of interval hit.
Exactly, like high intensity interval training, or Tabatas, or even, sometimes CrossFit, things like that. And what it does is it creates or it teaches your body to be more resilient in terms of your cardiovascular system. It turns on things and pathways like heat shock proteins. It upregulates the production of BDNF, which we talked about is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which helps with all types of neurocognitive protection, like when it comes to Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, depression, things like that.
Totally.
So without a doubt, exercise, number one. You're always going to want to optimize exercise.
Okay, so like if you're going to do one thing, it's exercise.
It's exercise, for sure. All things longevity.
So say I check that box.
Yeah. What else can you do?
Yeah.
So anything that you are intentionally exposing yourself to that causes a little bit of stress. So one thing that we do is sauna, hot exposure.
Oh, we as in us, me and you.
Me and you.
Okay.
And
this is true.
It's one of my personal, challenges for sure. It's probably the hardest thing for me. And what it does is it teaches our body to, go back to our homeostatic mechanisms and our thermoregulation. Again, of course, the reason why there's so much benefit is because it mimics, aerobic exercise. So it's going to have a lot of the same effects as exercise with the cardiovascular resilience.
I know what you're saying. Like when I'm out of breath in there,
when your heart rate's
when I'm sweating,
140, 150, things like that. So you're seeing a lot of the same outcomes because you're affecting a lot of the same pathways.
Okay.
But by exposing yourself to these non-dangerous but uncomfortable levels of heat, you're training your body to become more efficient for future, problems. In contrast to that would be something like cold therapy, cold immersion therapy.
Ooh, that is my nemesis.
Yeah, that's actually your nemesis. Yeah. It's not so bad for me, but yeah. So one, it's uncomfortable. Check that box. But two, it does a lot of the same things, but instead of, heat shock proteins, it does cold shock proteins. And I actually started doing cold immersion therapy a little over a year ago, purely because of the mental health benefits of it.
Yeah. Because
you are just uncomfortable, you're forced to sit with it, and you're training your mind too. Yeah.
So not just like you're saying, the biological
you're getting
kind of processes.
Yeah, you're getting the immune benefits. You're getting the, what we've seen is, cold shock proteins, and hopefully that translates into a lot of longevity benefits. But you also
a lot of people do it
resilience
for straight mental resilience, focus, mood boost.
Yeah, that's why I showed up, and now I'm still here.
Okay, what are some other things that we can maybe do?
So you can also incorporate mindful things into your diet. So if you've heard like eat the rainbow, but not like Skittles, but like in the vegetable sense, that's basically your baseline. Like the more colorful it is, the more nutrient dense and full of polyphenols. And what are polyphenols? Well, they're just like these micronutrients that come from plants. And what's funny is it's like hormesis on top of hormesis, because a plant that's exposed to more extreme temperatures and yet survives actually has more phytochemicals and things like that. And then we benefit more from their hormesis, and then we get hormesis.
It's like Inception.
Yes. So diet, exercise, hot, cold. And then you can also do breath work. And the idea of that is kind of changing your pH levels to a certain extent, and then also altering your CO2 levels and your oxygen levels. You know, most of us, when we're sitting in an office and we're not really doing much, we're doing this like this chronic shallow chest breathing.
Yeah, I do that. I'm doing that now.
It's not healthy. So we really want to incorporate those stresses on our system and hit some of those extremes, and it teaches our body to, you know, be more adaptable and resilient. Things like that. A lot of people have heard of the Wim Hof method and the benefits of that. A lot of it has been anecdotal. A lot of people can say it's kind of like woo-woo. But what's really cool is that, like, I think it's UCSF. They have a few studies, like 2 or 3 studies that they're in the process of right now, actually trying to recreate some of the benefits that have been anecdotally reported in terms of immunity and things like that. So they're checking their blood levels before they do a session of Wim Hof breathing plus cold, and then checking it after in this controlled, study to, it's great to actually have legit research on this stuff.
It is. I Wim Hofed once, and I felt legit high after. So I don't know how that
it does. It's because it alters your pH and it alters your oxygen and CO2 levels, and it affects your brainstem and a lot of those areas that are like opioid centers and things like that. So you actually do get high.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
you got high
off
of life.
After huffing. Okay.
Don't huff alone.
I don't know.
Okay. So that's kind of like, that's some easy lifestyle bangers right there where you can get some.
I've heard of fasting. Is that something that you can do too?
Yes. Yeah, actually, totally forgot about that. But yeah, fasting, caloric restriction, time restricted feeding, all of that has actually, there's a lot of good scientific research evidence, a lot mainly in animal studies, but there are some human studies too, that those trigger a lot of different mechanisms. We've talked about some of them in the longevity primer, like mTOR. mTOR specifically gets turned down with caloric restriction or time restricted feeding, which shows longevity benefits. But I do want to say that one's definitely like a cherry on top that, for a lot of people, especially if you're trying to, gain or, meet certain protein requirements for your training, you've got to just, maybe that one's not going to be a high yield for you.
Gotcha.
So all of this is kind of, you want to just kind of take the information and make it personalized for your goals.
Yeah, kind of with anything out there, especially, longevity, whatever, anything. It's really just personalized to how it fits into your needs, your goals, your life.
And we give a lot of information about like, oh, do this, do that, do that. And it's just, that's what it should be taken as, is information. I don't want people to feel overwhelmed or feel like they have to do these 10 things in order to be healthy. That's not the case. It's just, if this speaks to you or it's something that can fit into your lifestyle, do it. But number 1, exercise.
Okay, so let me get this straight. What we're saying is hormesis, putting your body through intentional stress or uncomfortable situations, and that is going to cue other downstream biological changes or adaptations.
Exactly.
Which
you're priming your body or preconditioning your body for future stressors. You are making yourself biologically more fit and resilient.
Bigger, stronger.
Okay.
And then we went through some of the things that you can do. Like you said, exercise, the number one. If you're going to do any of this, hormesis, that sounds cool. Yeah. Let's just exercise, because that's the number one thing you can do.
Exactly.
The other things are positive, but maybe
pick and choose whatever's going to be reasonable for your lifestyle, for sure. But the idea is get out of your comfort zone a little bit, and your body's going to really thank you. And it's the best thing that you could do for yourself. It seems counterintuitive because we all just want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
But getting out of your comfort zone is going to be beneficial. And you can have fun with it. Like, you can really set up these challenges for yourself. Like, one of the Immortal recommended books is The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter.
Such a good one.
It's a great book. And, you know, it reminds us, and it's something that we've talked about.
Yes.
We want to set up a Misogi challenge.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be personalized, but I'm sure we can find an, you know,
Common ground there.
common ground for something that's going to be pretty challenging. So set up a Misogi challenge, do some challenging thing with your family, with your friends, you know, and there's a lot of truth to, you know, the bonds that are created with suffering for some reason. Like, there's the military examples, there's the frontline worker examples,
There's CrossFit.
go Team Boba. And then of course, CrossFit for sure.
Yeah.
So go have fun with it. It doesn't
Okay.
have to be like a prescription, I need to do this stuff. It's actually really fun. And you can feel proud of yourself too.
No, totally. I feel proud every time I make it out of the cold.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for breaking down Hormesis with us today.
Much face off.
Yeah. As a reminder, all the Immortal members, you guys get the detailed guides right inside of the app. And stay tuned for the next episode. Keep it metal. Keep it immortal.
Yes.
You wanna forget?